Bruh. That's it. That's the review. That's how I feel about the DLC. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, sub to the channel if you haven't already. Special thanks to all channel members for your continued support, and I will see you all again. Okay, you probably looked at the length of the video and rightfully concluded that I have a bit more to say than just bruh. However, I could just say bruh, and anyone who's played these DLCs already would probably instantly understand where I'm coming from. Now, if you haven't played any of these and you're just tuning in to listen to me talk, first of all, thank you, I'm flattered. This is going to be mostly spoiler-free, save for me showing off the bosses themselves, and let's just say their physical appearance is in and of itself kind of a spoiler. But outside of that, all content related to this DLC is gameplay focused anyway. Now, I didn't cover these in my initial review of Code Vein, primarily because I hadn't even finished the first part and I didn't want to postpone the rest of the review just for this. So roughly 6 months after the base game came out, the first of 3 DLC episodes came out, if you want to call it that, since like I said, it's all gameplay stuff anyway. Hellfire Knight was the first one, followed by Frozen Empress a month later, and then concluding with Lord of Thunder the month after. Okay, time to stop beating around the bush. These DLCs are very disappointing, and when you factor in how much they cost, they're straight up bad. Each episode is $10 a piece, or you can buy the season pass for $25. When they're on sale, they're usually $5 individually or $10 for the season pass. Here's how each DLC works. All 3 of them are new depths locations that you can enter by talking to Davis back at the base. They're all literally just slightly bigger than the standard depths map, and they work like all the others. You go in, clear out the enemies, fight the 2 mini-bosses. The mini-bosses will drop some keys, or in this case vestiges, which you will then use to unlock the sealed door near the missile and fight the main boss. Literally every enemy, and I mean every last one of them, besides the main bosses themselves, are just copy-pasted enemies from the base game. This includes the mini-bosses, and it's not even the cooler enemies too. It's all the annoying guys, like Mito's guards, the insectoid, sea anemone looking dudes, yeah, those guys. Yeah, they're all over the place. I'm pretty sure they're mini-bosses in all 3 areas, in fact. Everyone also has an insane amount of HP and hits like a truck. Mini-bosses are further made more frustrating, as I guess the developers attempted to artificially bump the difficulty by dropping in 2 or 3 additional enemies into the ring to distract you and keep your resources low, while the main boss beats your companion into submission and then comes back over to finish you up. Remember, you can't attack without stamina, and your stamina can't replenish if you're constantly dodging or blocking. From what I can remember, the only mini-boss that wasn't a beefed-up normal enemy was the copy of Argent Wolf Berserker in the ice area, and he was a pretty fun fight in the base game. Unfortunately, the DLC version of this fight sucks all the joy right out of the original because someone thought, hey, you know what? It'd be a brilliant idea to put 2 turret enemies in the room with him, and put both of them on top of some really tall pillars so you can't reach them with melee attacks. Okay, fine, I'll use a magic build or a bayonet build and just shoot the motherfuckers. Oh wait, no, you can't do that either because both of those options have tissue paper defense, and if someone so much as sneezes on you, you'll get BTFO'd. I mean, seriously, at least put them on the ground. But yeah, Argent Wolf Berserker is actually the only actual boss, like through and through, that was brought over, which is pretty disappointing. I mean, if you were just going to copy and paste enemies and drop them in the new areas, like I said, at least do some interesting ones. Hell, the depths in the base game followed this pattern. They were based off of areas you already went to, and major bosses were reused as the main bosses of those. I mean, you couldn't at least drag and drop copies of the successor bosses in? Maybe successor of the Claw and Mito himself for Hellfire Knight? I know Mito isn't a successor, I'm just going based off of color scheme. Maybe successor of the Ribcage and Breath for Frozen Empress, and then successor of the Throat and Skull King for Lord of Thunder? And I'm intentionally using their successor names to not spoil the names of the characters. And that still would have been underwhelming, but still would have been better than what we got. The only completely new enemies are the bosses you fight at the end. They're horrors. Something I find funny. Whenever I'm talking about this game and I say horror, it sounds like I'm saying whore, as in hoe, which led to some pretty funny out-of-context lines when I went back and watched my own review to refresh my memory on what happened in the game. Anyway, this further cements the plot point of the horrors actually being the origami from God Eater. The Hellfire Knight, Frozen Empress, and Lord of Thunder are just reskinned Hannibal, Marduk, and Daaspida respectively. And they're okay, I guess. Easily the best part of each DLC, but still, I've got my issues with them. Actually, since he's first, I guess we're about to talk about him, Hellfire Knight is mostly fine. His fight is hard, but it also feels like it's the most fair, though in exchange for that, the area leading up to unlocking his door was the most tedious and annoying in my opinion. I dare say exploring the area was harder than his actual fight, but Hellfire Knight is overall the best of the three. And yes, each episode gets worse. Frozen Empress has a shorter exploration segment than its predecessor. The boss fight against her was... She was hard, but for all the wrong reasons. She's very spammy. She can summon 2 ice crystals to patrol the stage and fire projectiles and such. The problem with this fight is 1, when any of them shoots ice at you, the ice projectiles will hit you and then explode afterwards. And I'm not talking about chip damage here. Also, the whole rest of the floor is ice, so it's kind of hard to see the ice projectiles on the floor about to explode while you're there. You get what I mean? I mean, sure, there is like a little ring that kind of signifies that it's going to go off, but like in the heat of combat, you're not really going to be paying attention to that. So I say that to say, even if you have a really tanky build, this alone will allow her to punch through most of your efforts at maintaining a solid defense. 2, between the 3 of them attacking and firing projectiles at you, there's going to be a lot of particle effects on the screen, and sometimes it gets very hard to even see what the hell is going on. There is some silver lining though. Since Frozen Empress is obviously an ice-type enemy, you can use some of the spells and abilities that you got from Hellfire Knight to help with this fight. And I've found that regardless of whether you're using a melee or a magic build, you can work them into your toolkit without too much of a hassle. Now on to the third one, Lord of Thunder. More like Lord have mercy. I told you these get worse as we go on, you'll see why in a bit. The exploration isn't too bad, nothing special, but it's the shortest one both in terms of physical map size and enemy difficulty. Or maybe by the third go round I had just gotten better, or a bit of both. So, business as usual, explore the area, find the vestiges, go unlock the door. Except, when this DLC had just come out, it turns out this hippie looking we've got Daaspida at home looking motherfucker had other plans for the player base. Aight man, listen, like, I don't really feel like fighting today. Make love, not war and stuff, you know? Like, I just can't be bothered today, man, so, you know that second mini-boss that you just fought, man? So it turns out I told him to not give you the last vestige piece. I even gave him an ounce of weed to sweeten the deal, bro. So like, yeah, you're not getting past this door, man, because one of the enemies literally doesn't drop the item that you need to progress to the end. Okay, in non-humorous terms, because that was not just a joke, the final DLC was bugged. For a time, one of the mini-bosses didn't drop the vestige you needed to unlock the door up front. This made it damn near impossible to actually finish the thing. I heard you could work around it and the devs did eventually fix it, but you shouldn't have to do all that. My point still stands. Releasing a DLC that, at least initially, you couldn't even finish is unacceptable. And yet still feels like a poetic send-off, all things considered. As I just said though, it is fixed now, so if you were to pick up the game and the DLC right now, everything should work with no problems. The Lord of Thunder himself is alright. He feels just as annoying as Frozen Empress, but he at least doesn't have the elemental turrets helping him out. He's weak to ice, so just like last time, if you can work any of the Frozen Empress abilities into your loadout, that could help. He does inflict stun, however, so yeah, look out for that. Something I didn't mention about any of these horror bosses, most of their moveset directly corresponds to their origami counterparts in God Eater, with a couple modifications here and there. However, of the 3, I feel Lord of Thunder had the roughest transition between games. He feels just as fast and nimble as he did in God Eater, and this is a bad thing because you're not playing God Eater. Code Vein is a Souls-like, and you already know about my love-hate relationship with those already, but even the flashier, more action-y ones, for lack of a better term, like this game for example, are still significantly slower and more methodical when it comes to combat. It feels like Great Value PETA over here has the shortest wind-ups when it comes to attacking. Don't even get me started on when he just breaks off of fighting you and then starts running laps around the room. I glossed over this earlier, but there are rewards you can obtain for defeating the 3 main bosses under specific conditions, like defeat them normally, defeat them with certain equipment, defeat them while you're partnered with a certain character, etc. Some of those rewards include upgrade materials, cosmetic stickers, alternate outfits for your companions, and, in my opinion most importantly, new blood codes, new weapons, and new blood veils. The new blood codes are cool, I guess. They're my personal favorite part of the whole thing because it's new abilities you can play with. Those are always fun. As for the new equipment, and I say that loosely, don't get too excited. The weapons are just previous sets from the base game with particle effects added. The Hellfire stuff is just the sunset weapons with flames on them. The frozen stuff is just the Argent Wolf weapons with ice on them. And the thunder stuff is just the lost weapons with lightning on them. Now, I'm not sure how they are stat-wise. I would assume at the very least that they provide an elemental damage bonus on their own, even without you buffing it yourself. But honestly, I couldn't be bothered to upgrade them all the way. If I, for whatever reason, need to come back to this game, then I guess I can farm the materials and give you an update then. I doubt that will happen though. The blood veils are even more disappointing. They're also just recolored equipment from the base game, but unlike the weapons, they don't even get their own particle effects, so they feel even less special. Like, come on, really? At least make the glowing lights on the drain attacks different colors. Maybe bright orange for the fire ones, light blue for the ice ones, and purple for the lightning ones. And I guess that's actually the overarching issue with this entire thing. It feels like they just did the bare minimum, and that's ignoring the 3rd DLC being broken, by the way. I don't know if it was time constraints or if they planned to do more but something unexpected happened and they had to quickly throw some stuff together. Either scenario would explain why like 80% of it is just reused assets, or maybe they were just lazy. Who knows at this point. And here's the thing with this content. If these were free patches, it'd be fine, because actually that's what this feels like, patch content. But not only is this paid content, they ask for a season's pass up front. Imagine being an early adopter to this and eagerly waiting to see how they expand the story, only to be met with pretty much no story, annoying fights, the major bosses really being the only highlight, and in Lord of Thunder's case, you couldn't even fight him initially. Barely different rewards once you clear it all, and you're left with an extremely lackluster addition to an otherwise great game. So I'll say, if you already like the game and you really want to play these for the sake of completion, or you want the new equipment and blood codes possibly for a new game plus run, or you're just a huge God Eater fan and you want to see what it feels like to fight an Origami Soul style, then go ahead, but dear God, not at full price. And if you don't feel compelled to do it at all, but you're worried about missing story, you're not missing anything. You're good. Anyway, that will mark the end of this video, for real this time. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, sub to the channel if you haven't already. A special thanks to all channel members for your continued support, it is much appreciated, and I will see you all again very soon.